Welcome to the deep dive.
Right.
Okay, picture this. Two guys. One, a janitor, really humble, from rural Vermont. The other, a top exec at Merrill Lynch, Harvard education, the whole deal.
Right. Big contrast.
Huge. Now, one of them ends up with an $8 million fortune, quietly built. The other loses everything, goes bankrupt.
It's an amazing story, isn't it? And the surprise is who ended up where.
Exactly. What connects them isn't really how smart they were with spreadsheets, but something else entirely.
Yeah.
How they behaved.
Yeah, it's this striking paradox. You've got Ronald Redd, the janitor, also worked at a gas station. Super frugal, very low-key guy.
Okay.
And then Richard Fuscone, the Harvard MBA, lived in this enormous 18,000 square foot mansion, pools, huge monthly expenses.
Wow. So you looked at it and you'd think, you know who came out on top financially, right?
You absolutely would. But it was Ronald Reagan, the janitor. He became a multimillionaire. How just patient save, investing in solid blue chip stocks, stable companies.
Right.
Built up $8 million. And when he died, he left millions to his local library and hospital.
That's incredible. And Fuscone, the finance guy.
Fuscone, despite all his know-how, well, he filed for bankruptcy. Lost it all after the 2008 crisis. He'd made these huge risky bets, often with borrowed money, high leverage, they call it.
So how does that even happen? How does a janitor, do better than a Harvard MBA in finance?
Yeah.
This deep dive is arguing it's not about the math, is it? It's psychology.
Precisely. And that brings us to Morgan Housel. He wrote the bestseller, The Psychology of Money. The full title is Timeless Lessons on Wealth, Greed, and Happiness.
Right. I've heard so much about that book.
Yeah, and he uses stories exactly like Reed and Fuscone to show that, doing well with money often has surprisingly little to do with how smart you are and almost everything to do with how you behave.
And Housel's background is interesting too, right? He wasn't always like a finance guru. He started as a journalist.
Yeah, financial journalist, places like The Motley Fool, The Wall Street Journal. So he learned by watching, by telling stories about finance. He's got this knack for making complex ideas feel, relatable.
Like that analogy comparing compound interest to ice ages.
Exactly. Tiny changes year after year seem like nothing. But over geological time, boom, massive ice sheets. Same with money, compounding over decades. It's powerful stuff.
It really is.
What really drives him, I think, is this deep curiosity about why people do what they do with money. He famously said something like, to understand crazy debt, don't study interest rates. Study the history of greed, uncertainty, and optimism.
That really reframes it, doesn't
Right.
it? It's not just numbers on a page. It's human nature.
Totally. So Housel's big idea, the core takeaway, is that financial success, it's not a hard science like physics. It's a soft skill. Your behavior is way more important than your technical knowledge.
He actually says a genius who loses control of their emotions can be a financial disaster.
Right.
The opposite is also true. Ordinary folks can be wealthy if they have a handful of behavioral skills. Skills like patience, discipline, humility.
A long-term view, managing fear and greed, that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Those soft skills.
Okay, so then Housel brings up this idea of rational versus reasonable. Now, we're always told to be rational with money, right?
Yeah.
Make the logical choice. What's reasonable mean here?
This is such a key distinction. Look, a spreadsheet might tell you the most rational thing for maximum return is 100% stocks, pure logic.
Okay, makes sense on paper.
But reasonable acknowledges you, the actual human being investing. You might panic when the market crashes 30%, right? A reasonable approach says, okay, maybe having some cash or bonds isn't technically optimal for returns.
But it stops me from freaking out and selling everything at the bottom.
Exactly. It dramatically increases the odds you'll actually stick with your plan through thick and thin. The goal isn't the perfect portfolio on paper. It's one that lets you sleep at night.
It shifts finance from just math to, emotional intelligence almost.
That's a great way to put it. Emotional literacy. And his book, The Psychology of Money, it's really resonated. It's kind of democratized financial wisdom, made people feel less anxious, shown there's a path even without an economics PhD.
Yeah, it's actually changing the industry too, isn't it? Financial advisors?
Oh, definitely. The CFP board, the ones who certify financial planners, they now include psychology of financial planning as a major topic. It's like 7% of the exam now.
Wow. So understanding people is officially part of the job description.
It is. It's a huge shift.
Okay, so wrapping up, how do you, listening, start applying this? Housel says step one isn't opening a brokerage account. It's looking in the mirror. What does that look like?
It means starting with your own beliefs. Take a minute, think about one strong belief you have about money. Maybe debt is always bad, or you need big risks for big rewards, or even saving small amounts is pointless.
Okay, got one.
Now just ask yourself gently, where did that come from? Parents? Something that happened to you? Media? Don't judge it. Just notice it. Then, maybe over the next few days, just observe one financial decision. Yours or someone else's. Big or small, doesn't matter. Try to see past the numbers. What was the emotion driving it? Fear? Keeping up appearances? Need for comfort?
But again, not judging, just observing the psychology.
Exactly. Just practice seeing it. Because ultimately, Housel argues understanding your own history, your biases, your personal definition of enough. That is the most powerful financial skill you can build.
A really powerful thought. Understanding yourself is the financial skill.
Mm.
Okay, join us next time. We're diving headfirst into two really potent invisible forces, luck and risk. We'll explore why nothing is ever quite as good or quite as bad as it seems.
Okay, so I have this friend who, not too long ago, spent basically house down payment money on their wedding. And honestly, my first thought was just, are you crazy?
Yeah.
Like, it just seemed like a massive financial mistake. But was it? Or was I the one maybe missing the picture? This whole question is kind of the core of Morgan Housel's book, The Psychology of Money. And today we're doing a deep dive into Chapter 1. It's called No One's Crazy. Housel's idea here is, well, it's pretty powerful. People do things with money that look irrational, totally irrational sometimes. But he argues no one's actually crazy. Every decision makes sense to that person right then. It fits their view of the world, their personal history, their past, their fears, their hopes. But if you're on the outside and you don't have that context, yeah, it can look nuts.
It's fascinating, isn't it, how much these personal stories really drive things. Housel makes this incredible point. He says, your own experiences with money, they make up maybe like 0.0000001% of everything that's ever happened with money globally. Tiny, right? But those experiences, they account for maybe 80% of how you think the world works financially. What you actually lived through, what you see firsthand, that's what writes your financial DNA. It's just so much more potent than reading about it.
Yeah, that hits home.
Yeah.
Because really, when you stop and think about it, we're all sort of amateurs here. In a way. I mean, the 401k,
Yeah.
that cornerstone of retirement, it wasn't even invented until 1978. And the Roth IRA, that came along in 1998. We haven't had generations to figure this stuff out instinctively.
Exactly. And that leads to a really important point, doesn't it? Why does so much standard financial advice just fall flat? You can show someone all the charts, historical stock market returns, whatever. But if their defining memory is watching their parents get wiped out in a crash, that data means almost nothing. Their own lived experience, that visceral feeling, is just way more powerful than numbers on a page. So any effective advice, it really has to start by seeing that story, by acknowledging it first.
Right. You have to meet people where they are. And you see this so clearly with different generations, how economic history shapes them. It's not just news headlines. It becomes this lens they see everything through. Like someone who grew up during the Great Depression in the 30s. That extreme caution with debt, maybe holding on to cash. From their viewpoint, that's not crazy at all. It's survival. It's perfectly rational.
Absolutely. And then flip that. Someone coming of age in, say, the 90s.com boom, they might have a totally different risk appetite, maybe more optimism, this feeling that, things were different now. And then you look at millennials shaped by the 2008 crisis, by student debt. You often see maybe more distrust of big institutions, maybe more focus on experiences rather than just stuff, different times, different perspectives.
It's a powerful contrast. Okay, but let's tackle one that often really looks irrational. Buying lottery tickets. Housel points out that the lowest income households spend, on average, over $400 a year on lottery tickets, often when they don't have emergency savings. How do we understand that without just saying, well, that's just self-destructive?
Yeah, that's a tough one from the outside. But the key is trying to see it from their perspective. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, and the usual ways to build wealth saving, investing, they just feel completely out of reach, impossible, then a lottery ticket, it stops being about investment. It's not about the odds, really. It becomes, as Housel puts it, the purchase of hope. It's buying a ticket to dream of a different life, a dream that maybe wealthier people can access in other ways. So within that specific context, it suddenly clicks. It has its own internal logic.
That reframing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's powerful. So if everyone's experiences are unique, and even seemingly crazy actions have this hidden rationale, what's the big takeaway here? For me, it's kind of humbling. It means judging others' money choices. That probably says more about my own biases than their reality.
Exactly. And that leads right into this idea House talks about, financial empathy. It's basically the habit of pausing before you judge, asking yourself, okay, wait, what could this person have gone through to make them see things this way? Wow. And it's not just about being nice, though that's good too. It's actually a super useful skill. Think about talking money with your partner or your parents. Those conversations can be tricky, right? Empathy helps because you start to understand the story behind the numbers, not just argue about the numbers themselves. Honestly, it's a crucial soft skill today for investors, for anyone really, in a world just flooded with information, but pretty short on real understanding.
Totally agree. So, practical steps. How can you, listening right now, start building this financial empathy muscle? Housel gives a couple of great ideas. First, interview a family member. Ask an older relative, parent, grandparent about their first or strongest memory about money, and just listen. You might uncover some fascinating family financial DNA. Second, practice financial empathy actively. Next time you see or hear about a money decision that makes you think, that's nuts, just pause. Try to imagine the life story, the experiences that could make that exact decision feel perfectly logical to someone else.
It really boils down to this. Our beliefs about money, we don't just choose them from a menu. They're forged by our unique, often unseen experiences. Getting that, really understanding it, that's the path to being wiser, more compassionate, and yeah, probably more successful with money in the long run.
And that's a perfect place to pause for today. Next time on The Deep Dive, we're tackling two huge forces in finance, luck and risk. We'll look at how Bill Gates' incredible success and the tragic story of a high school classmate were, in some ways, two sides of the exact same coin. Should be fascinating. Welcome back to a deep dive into, how those unseen forces really shape our financial lives. Last time we talked about personal histories, but today we're pulling the camera back even further. Let's maybe start with a quick thought experiment for you listening. Imagine a business tycoon, bent the rules, built an empire. Everyone calls him a visionary. Now, picture someone else, tried similar things, failed, and they get labeled a fraud. What if the biggest difference wasn't skill or smarts, but just, a random roll of the dice?
That's a great way to frame it. It really shows how success and failure can be, well, almost neighbors. Why do you think it's so hard for us to see it that way sometimes, that thin line?
Well, I think there's this deep, this really human need to feel like we're in control, right? So our mission today is to explore why the really big outcomes, the extremes, are often driven by stuff you just can't predict. And, more importantly, how respecting these two forces, luck and its twin, risk, can actually make you more resilient, maybe more humble, and, a better investor.
Absolutely, because as one source pointed out, you really can't believe in luck without also respecting risk. They're two sides of the same coin. It means things are rarely as amazing or, frankly, as terrible as they seem in the moment.
Okay, let's make this concrete. There's this powerful story, almost perfectly symmetrical. Bill Gates and Kent Evans. Think about it. 1968. There are, 303 million high school-age kids in the world. Only about 300 of them went to this one small private school in Seattle, Lakeside. And Lakeside had something almost no other school had back then, a computer. Bill Gates, he happened to be one of those two. That's like a 1 in a million break, pure luck. It gave him thousands of hours of programming time when that was incredibly rare. But here's where it gets really fascinating. His best friend, Ken Evans, Gates himself said he was just as smart, just as driven. Microsoft could easily have been a 3-founder company.
But it wasn't. Ken Evans tragically died in a mountaineering accident before he even graduated high school, statistically. Also about a 1 in a million event. So you see this stark contrast. One friend gets this incredible dose of luck, 1 in a million. The other gets hit by devastating risk, also 1 in a million. Same force, same magnitude, just opposite directions.
Wow. So what's the takeaway from that? For us, it kind of forces you to accept that outcomes aren't just about effort, are they? It really pushes back against that, the narrative fallacy, our tendency to want neat stories, where skill is everything and randomness gets ignored.
Right, and that's a tough bias, isn't it? Because it feels better to think success is purely earned, failure purely deserved. It also makes you question how we study success. The media loves the outliers, the billionaires, the huge flameouts, but those extremes are often soaked in luck or risk, these unique tail events you can't copy. Maybe instead of trying to be the next Bill Gates, we should look at the common threads among the, let's say, modestly successful.
What kind of threads?
Things like high savings rates, patience, consistency over long periods, stuff that's less dramatic but maybe more replicable.
Okay, that makes sense. And that leads us pretty neatly into this other big idea. Tail events. or sometimes called black swans. Picture a graph of daily stock market returns, right?
Mhm.
Most days, not much happens, small ups, small downs. That makes the big hump in the middle of the graph. But way out on the edges and the tails, that's where you find the crazy days, the 1987 crash, the 2008 crisis, the really extreme stuff.
Exactly. And what's crucial here is that these rare, unpredictable tail events, they account for almost all the market's long-term gains. And also its biggest losses. Our brains are just not wired to properly estimate how often these extremes happen. Traditional finance models often assume a nice, gentle bell curve, but reality, it has fat tails, meaning those extreme events are way more common than the models predict.
So the volatility, the uncertainty, it's not a defect in the system.
Not at all. It's the cost. It's the price of admission you pay for the chance at long-term returns.
And lots of people try to get the gains without paying that price.
Which isn't just about money, is it? It's the emotional toll, too. Sticking it out when things look bleak.
Okay, so if we can't predict these tail events and they drive so much, what's the practical response?
That brings us to maybe the most useful concept. Building a margin of safety. Think of it as your buffer, your cushion. It's the gap between what you hope happens and what you can actually withstand if things go really wrong. It's how you deal with tail risk in the real world.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Think about Warren Buffett. He famously says he won't trade a night's sleep for extra potential profit. That's his margin of safety.
Or Bill Gates, back at Microsoft. He insisted they always had enough cash to cover a full year's payroll, even if zero revenue came in.
Exactly. That was his safety net.
So the point isn't to perfectly predict the future.
No, not at all. The point of the margin of safety is to make forecasting less necessary. If you have that buffer, extra cash, maybe less debt, flexible plans, you don't need to know what the next crisis will be or when it hits. You just need to be reasonably sure you can survive it. It makes survival the default. It's honestly the most rational way to operate in a world that's often, well, irrational. And it's not just about the numbers on a spreadsheet. It's for your future self, the one who might be panicking.
Okay, great stuff. So let's quickly recap this deep dive. First, luck and risk. Totally inseparable. They touch every financial life. Second, the world often turns on these extreme, unpredictable tail events. So, humility. Not optional for long-term success. And third, your best defense isn't a crystal ball. It's building that resilient margin of safety to make sure you can stay in the game. So to maybe make this practical, here's a little exercise for you this week. First, think about a lucky break in your own life. Could be anything, a chance meeting, right place, right time. And just honestly try to assess how much pure luck played a role. It's a good way to cultivate that humility we talked about.
And for the other side of that coin, pick one big financial goal you have. Then ask yourself, okay, what if? Brainstorm maybe one or two worst-case things that could totally derail that goal. Don't get bogged down in negativity, but just think, is there one small thing I could do now to make that risk a little less damaging if it happened? That's you actively building your own margin of safety.
Great advice. Remember, the real goal of a solid financial plan isn't about being right all the time. That's impossible. It's about being financially unbreakable when you inevitably are wrong sometimes. That's the power you get from respecting luck and risk. Next time, we're tackling something really tricky in modern life, that constantly moving goalpost of more. We'll explore why maybe the hardest but most crucial financial skill is just knowing when you finally have enough.
Okay, let's dive in. Today we're tackling really one of life's biggest questions, isn't it?
Absolutely. This whole idea of enough. What does it actually mean, particularly when we talk about money?
Yeah, because we all kind of chase it, but do we know what it is? We're going to explore, the psychology behind wanting more and maybe find some actual strategies for feeling fulfilled.
Using some pretty compelling stories and the latest research, too.
Right. The mission is basically to get you up to speed on why more isn't always the answer. So let's start with a story. Rajat Gupta. You might know the name, former head of McKinsey & Company. Immensely successful.
Hugely. By 2008, his net worth was over $80 million.
$80 million. You'd think that's, more than enough, right? But he risked literally everything.
It's quite the cautionary tale. He got caught up in insider trading.
Yeah, there was this confidential Goldman Sachs board meeting. He found out Warren Buffett was about to drop, $5 billion into the company?
And moments later, he's on the phone. Tipped off a hedge fund manager, Rajaratnam.
For a profit of about $1 million. Illicit profit, obviously.
And the consequences were severe. 2 years in prison, a $5 million fine. His reputation just ruined.
So the core question hangs there, doesn't it? Why would someone with so much, 80 million plus, risk it all for, relatively speaking, just a little bit more?
It seems baffling on the surface.
Yeah.
But it actually points to something fundamental in our psychology, something often called the hedonic treadmill or hedonic adaptation.
Okay, hedonic treadmill. Break that down.
Sure. Think about buying a new car.
Yeah.
Or maybe a bigger house. Initially, there's this real thrill, right? Genuine excitement.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But give it some time. 6 months, a year maybe. That intense joy, it fades. It becomes the new normal.
The extraordinary just becomes ordinary.
Exactly. Your happiness level kind of resets to its baseline. It's an adaptation mechanism actually useful for getting over negative things, but it blunts the positive stuff too.
So our brains are basically wired to get used to things, good or bad, which means we're always looking for the next hit of happiness.
That's a big part of it. And what really throws gasoline on that fire is social comparison.
Ah, keeping up with the Joneses. Or in Gupta's case, maybe the Zuckerbergs.
Precisely. Enough is almost never just a number in a vacuum. It's relative to who you're comparing yourself to.
Right.
Being the wealthiest person in your town might feel better than being, say, the poorest billionaire on your private jet runway.
So Gupta, with his $84 million, he was surrounded by Silicon Valley types, people making truly staggering amounts, apparently.
Yeah, reports suggested he felt this sense of relative deprivation, even resentment. His $80 million didn't feel like enough compared to them.
So that goalpost for enough just keeps shifting further and further away because of who's around you.
It's a powerful accelerator for that treadmill.
Okay, so this treadmill plus social comparison, it keeps us chasing. But what happens when that chase goes completely unchecked, when wanting just spirals?
Well, you get into some dangerous territory. You mentioned Gordon Gekko. His famous line was, "Greed is good." But later he apparently revised that, called it a weapon of mass destruction.
And we've seen that play out, haven't we? Think about Bernie Madoff.
Madoff exploited what you might call a greed for certainty. He promised these incredibly steady, impossible returns, 10, 12% year after year.
Using new money to pay old investors. Classic Ponzi.
Then there's Enron. That wasn't just one person. It was like a cultural greed, this insatiable hunger for growth, no matter the cost.
Leading to massive fraud, hiding debt, costing 20,000 people their jobs when it collapsed.
And Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street, that was just pure hedonistic excess, wasn't it?
Pump and dump scams,
Yeah.
fueling this insane lifestyle. Though even he eventually said greed is not good.
These are extreme examples, sure, but they show a pattern, right? How ambition, maybe under intense pressure, can slowly chip away at character.
People become tools, rules become obstacles.
Yeah. You start ignoring the warning signs.
So can science actually help us here? Is there like a number for enough?
Well, researchers have definitely tried to pin that down. Kahneman and Deaton, Nobel Prize winners, did a famous study back in 2010.
Right, the $75,000 study.
That's the one. They found that day-to-day emotional well-being, how happy, stressed, or sad you feel today, tended to plateau around an income of $75,000, which is maybe closer to $100,000 today with inflation.
So more money beyond that didn't really make people feel happier day to day?
Not in terms of those daily emotions, no. Though their overall life satisfaction, how they rated their life as a whole, did keep climbing.
Okay, but then didn't another study come along and find something different? Matthew Killingsworth.
Exactly. In 2021, Killingsworth published research using smartphone data to track feelings in real time. And he found that experience well-being just kept rising with income, no plateau in sight, even way beyond $75K or $100.
So, which one is it? Do we plateau or not?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting. Kahneman and Killingsworth actually teamed up. They called it an adversarial collaboration. They reanalyzed both their data sets together, and they found a more nuanced picture. For most people, maybe 80–85%, happiness does actually keep increasing with income, well into the hundreds of thousands.
So Killingsworth was generally right for the majority.
Pretty much. But for a significant minority, maybe 15–20%, an unhappy cohort, the original plateau around $100,000 still holds true.
Why?
The thinking is, these people might be dealing with other major life miseries, grief, depression, severe illness, things that money just can't fix. As they put it, if you're rich and miserable, more money won't help.
So enough money might be the point where it stops significantly reducing misery, like paying bills, affording healthcare, rather than the point where it starts actively buying happiness.
That's a great way to put it. It shifts from alleviating suffering to enabling perhaps a better life, but not guaranteeing daily joy for everyone.
Okay, so if the number is fuzzy and personal, how do we actually get off this treadmill? How do we define our own enough?
It really becomes a psychological skill you have to cultivate. It's not just about the money, it's about your mindset.
Makes sense. So what are the strategies?
Well, first, consciously practice gratitude. It's like the direct antidote to hedonic adaptation, focusing on what you have rather than what you lack.
Okay, gratitude. What else?
Invest in experiences over material things. That vacation, learning a skill, the memories and growth tend to provide more lasting happiness than, say, another gadget.
Right, the joy from stuff fades faster.
Definitely. Third, and this is huge, foster meaningful relationships. Social connection is consistently shown to be one of the strongest predictors of long-term well-being, way more than income, actually.
Good point. What about purpose?
Crucial. Pursue purpose. There's a story about an entrepreneur, Steve Chow. He realized he was grinding away, making money he didn't even need anymore, totally disconnected from why he started his business.
He lost the why.
Exactly. Finding that purpose again brought more fulfillment than just seeing the bank balance grow. Purpose often beats profit for genuine satisfaction. Know your specific financial goals. Don't just run towards more. Define your finish line. What does financial security look like for you? An emergency fund, college for the kids, retirement savings. Having concrete goals helps you know when you can actually stop running.
So let's circle back to Rajat Gupta for a final thought.
Yeah.
The real tragedy, maybe it wasn't just losing the money or his freedom, shocking as that was. Maybe it was the loss of his inner freedom.
That's profound. Because that relentless pursuit of more, always comparing, always feeling slightly behind, it really is its own kind of prison, isn't it?
Yeah, it chains you to anxiety, to this feeling that happiness is always just one more deal away, one more zero away.
When the ultimate luxury might not be the bigger number at all.
Right. Maybe it's just the quiet confidence. Knowing you have enough. Knowing maybe that you are enough.
And realizing you can finally stop running. That's freedom. People called the eighth wonder of the world. Albert Einstein apparently said something like, "He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it."
Mm-hmm.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into that exact thing, compounding.
Yeah, this quiet, almost hidden force.
Exactly. And our mission isn't just the math, which is surprisingly simple, actually.
Right, it's the psychology. That's the hard part.
That's it. We want to figure out why time is the crucial ingredient for wealth. Look at Warren Buffett, the ultimate example of patience, and find the biggest enemy to compounding.
Which is usually us.
Pretty much. It boils down to behavior, not just numbers.
So at its core, compounding is just interest on interest. Think of it like a feedback loop.
Okay.
Your money earns something, and then that earning starts earning too. Say you invest $100 at 5%. After year one, you've got $105 left.
Right, $5 interest.
Exactly. But year two, you earn 5% on the full $105. So you get, what, $5.25? That extra 25 cents.
Teeny.
Seems tiny, but that's the seed. That's where the exponential growth starts.
And it really does take off. That $100, if you just leave it alone, becomes over $162 in 10 years. And almost $340 in 25 years. It's not a straight line up. It curves, like steeply upwards.
Yeah, it accelerates.
Think about skipping a $2 daily pizza for a year. That's $730 saved.
Okay.
Invest that once at 5% for 30 years, it grows to over $3,100. You don't add another cent.
That's a great illustration. It reminds me of Warren Buffett's snowball analogy.
Oh, yeah. There's no one.
You start with a small, wet snowball, your initial investment at the top of a really long hill.
The hill being time.
Exactly. And as it rolls, it picks up more snow, gets bigger, faster. The growth speeds up. The key is the long hill, just letting it roll.
So, translating that for you listening, what does this mean? It means time is your biggest ally. Seriously.
It's why we always hear time in the market, not timing the market.
Right. Let's use an example. Susan and John. Susan starts investing $5,000 a year at age 25. She only does it for 10 years, so she stops at 35. Total invested $50,000.
Okay, just 10 years.
Then there's John. He starts later at 35. He invests the same $5,000 a year, but he does it for 30 years, right up until he's 65. So you put in $150,000 total.
3 times the amount Susan invested. So who ends up better off?
You'd think John, right? He invested way more.
Logically, yeah.
But let's say they both get an 8% annual return. John ends up with around $600,000. Pretty good.
Not bad at all. But Susan?
Susan, who invested only $50K and stopped 30 years earlier, she has almost $1.2 million.
Wow, nearly double.
Double. just because her money had that extra decade to compound before John even put his first dollar in.
That perfectly shows it. Time is the great equalizer. A little bit invested today is just mathematically way more powerful than planning to invest a lot more later on.
Which brings us to, well, the masterclass. Warren Buffett. People focus on his stock picks, his genius there.
And he's obviously brilliant at that, no question.
But his real secret weapon, it's just time. The sheer length of time he's been doing it since he was, 11?
Over 80 years of compounding. It's incredible. And his wealth chart looks like a hockey stick, pretty flat for decades. Then it just shoots almost vertically upwards.
Yeah, I read that something like 99% of his net worth came after his 50th birthday.
That's right, 99%. It totally reframes his skill. It's not just picking stocks, it's this inhuman patience. Decades-long focus, he says it himself. Our favorite holding period is forever.
It sounds so simple when you put it like that. Let time do the work.
It does sound simple.
So why do so many of us mess it up? What's the enemy here?
Well, like we hinted at earlier,
It's
us, our own psychology. We're wired for action, right? Driven by greed when things go up, fear when they go down.
The urge to do something.
Exactly, which leads to trying to time the market. Jumping in and out, guessing the highs and lows.
Which is basically impossible.
Effectively impossible. And the cost of trying is huge. Missing just the 10 best trading days over, say, 20 years, that can cut your potential returns by more than half.
Wow, just 10 days out of 20 years.
Yeah. A $10,000 investment might grow to over $71,000 if you stayed put, but miss those 10 best days. And it's maybe only $32,000. Miss 30 best days, and you might actually lose money.
That's crazy. So the risk of being out is actually bigger than the risk of staying in during downturns?
In many ways, yes, because those big upswings are often short and unpredictable, and the psychological trap is real. You sell in panic, then you're too scared to get back in and miss the recovery.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to wanting to check my balance constantly, especially when the market's shaky. It feels like you should react.
It's counterintuitive, but often the best action is no action.
So, summing it up, compounding is this quiet miracle, fueled by time, demonstrated by incredible endurance, like Buffett's.
And easily derailed by our own emotions getting in the way.
The secret really is just
Yeah,
patience and consistency. Keep adding, keep waiting.
exactly. So 2 practical things you can do. First, try to really visualize the long-term growth. Go online, find a compound interest calculator. Lots of sites have them.
Like investor.gov or Schwab, maybe?
Sure, any of those. Plug in a realistic savings amount, maybe $25, $50, $100 a week or month. Use a reasonable return, maybe 7 or 8%.
Okay.
And set the time horizon long 20, 30 years. Then just watch how the interest earned line overtakes your contributions. See that hockey stick with your own potential numbers?
That makes it tangible. And the second thing,
This one's behavioral, a little challenge. For just 1 week, 7 days, try not to check your investment or retirement account balance.
ooh, that's tough for some people.
It is, but it's like building a muscle, your patience muscle. It helps shift your focus away from short-term noise towards that long-term goal. It's an exercise in mindset.
Letting it be. Okay, I like that.
And remember that other great Buffett quote, someone's sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago?
Ah, perfect.
Your consistent saving, your patience, that's you planting that tree for your future self.
That's all for this episode of the Deep Dive Cast. Thanks for joining us. We hope you gained some valuable insights. Be sure to tune in next time for another deep dive into the world's best ideas. Until then, keep learning and growing.